Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for letting me know that you couldn't hear me. Thank you guys for helping me to troubleshoot. I really appreciate you. You've made this live experience really fun. The fact that you are inboxing me on things that you want me to talk about is really exciting and really exciting for me and fun for me. So I got a lot of inboxes, as I started to say earlier, and one of the topics was trust. Trust. And so I want to talk tonight about the topic of trust. Miss you too, Shauna. Hey, Kima. And it ties in nicely with another topic that was inboxed to me tonight as well, trust. So let's first define trust. What is trust? What do you define as trust? Trust is, to you, what? Fill in the blank. Trust is loosely defined as a belief in someone. When you believe in someone or you believe in something or you have confidence in someone or if you have confidence in something, that's defined as trust, right? So there are a lot of issues around trust, and trust is the foundation for all relationships. All. Whether it's a parent-child relationship, whether it's on the job, employee-boss relationship, definitely in a marriage or in a romantic type relationship, any type of relationship you can think about, trust is the foundation. Why? Because we don't if we don't trust someone, if we can't take what they say, whether in their words or their actions, then there's no basis for us to continue a relationship, right? Wherever it may be. Trust is confidence. Yes, Wes. Trust is confidence. And so that's the basis. That's what trust is. So how do we build trust now? We build trust by what? Being honest. I think that goes without saying. If we are dealing with people or dealing with anyone, we have to be honest with them first so that they can trust us, right? What's another way that we build trust? We build trust by being consistent. Because if we're honest today and not honest tomorrow, then we lack in consistency and we start to lose trust. So we build trust by being consistent. We build trust by what other ways? We build trust by doing what we say we're going to do. We build trust by our behavior, by modeling, right? So if we're going to preach something, then we should practice it because that will help us to build trust, right? What are some of the other ways that we build trust? We build trust by having discipline in whatever it is that we say we're going to do. So we say we're going to do something and we don't give up on it. We say we're going to do something and we keep doing it. We have the discipline to see through the end, right? So that's another way of us building trust. Being authentic, definitely. Shauna says letting go. I'm not sure how letting go builds trust, but we'll get to that, Shauna. And being consistent, absolutely, Wes. Those are some of the ways that we build trust. So if we do the opposite, then what's going to happen? We're going to lose trust, right? So if we're not consistent, if we're not disciplined, if we're not honest, if we're not all these things, then we lose trust. So we have to exhibit all of these things, practice all of these things in order to build trust in all of our relationships, regardless of what they are. Who do we build trust with first? And I know that this is taking a different turn, probably from what y'all expected, but this is important. Who do we build trust with first? Anybody? Who do we build trust with first? We build trust first with ourselves. With ourselves. How do we treat ourselves? Are we doing the things that honor us? Are we being consistent with ourselves? So if there's a ailment that I have and I said, let's just take being healthy, right? And being healthy and being fit. Being healthy and being fit. So if I know that there's something that I need to improve my health and fitness for a reason, probably, failing health, whatever. And I need to improve my health and fitness. And I say, I am going to cut back on eating A because A isn't good for me. And then I am going to increase my exercise, for example, so that I can be healthy and fit. But I always have an excuse as to why I have to eat A, although I know A is bad for me. I always have to have an excuse for why I can't exercise, although I know I need exercise. If I can't keep a commitment to myself, if I can't keep my word to myself, if I can't be honest with myself about what needs to get done and do it, then is it fair then to assume that somebody else should trust me? Is it fair then to assume that I will allow trust or allow trustworthiness to build with someone else when I myself am not being trustworthy to myself? Does that make sense to you? Does it make sense? We first have to build trust with ourselves. And people have said God, and I think that goes without saying. But God lives in us, right? So God gives us a body and God gives us the awareness that we need to do certain things. And so if we say that we trust God, we can't say that we trust God without showing the actions, right? Because faith without works is dead. So we can't say we trust and we can't say we have faith unless we actually do those things and take the actions towards it. So I would say for trust, one of the first things that we have to do is trust ourselves. Okay? Are we doing right by ourselves? Are we making the right decisions? Are we holding ourselves accountable? Because people are watching. People are watching how we treat each other, and how most of our people are watching how we treat ourselves. So that's one of the first things I wanted to talk about as we discuss trust. The second thing is trustworthiness that you're building with others. How trustworthy are you? Because when we start to talk about trust in relationships, it's easy to say that someone broke our trust, or we can't trust someone, or someone isn't being trustworthy enough to us. But if we aren't doing it to ourselves, can we very well expect somebody else to be trustworthy to us if we're not trustworthy to ourselves? Or if we're not exhibiting trustworthiness ourselves, can we expect the same thing back? So first ourselves, and then character building. How are we displaying trust to others? Are we being consistent in our words? Are we being consistent in our actions? Are we being consistent in our honesty? Are we on the telephone gossiping with our girlfriends and telling little white lies, and our partner is in the couch right next to us hearing us lie, and then we expect him to be honest and to be trustworthy with us when we've just spent the past hour being dishonest and being untrustworthy? You see, these are things that build trust. People know, or people choose or decide to trust you based on your character. So that's very important before we even demand trust or ask trust from somebody else, to make sure that we are trustworthy ourselves, that we are living the examples, that we are exemplifying them every day. And yes, it is hard, Ife, but that's the test that we go through daily as to our character, because we cannot want to receive what we don't give. It's unfair, and that's not how the world works. We can't ask for trust from anyone if we ourselves can't be trustworthy. Why would somebody want to trust us, or why would somebody build trust with us if we aren't ourselves trustworthy? And so character building is something that where we have to work on every single day in terms of building our character. Every single day our character is going to be tested. Every single day we have the opportunity to tell a lie or to tell the truth. Every single day we have the opportunity to be consistent. Every single day we have the opportunity to show the trust in ourselves and the trust in others. Every single day. But it's up to us whether we're going to do the hard work to do it. And so that's what I wanted to talk about first, those 2 points as it relates to trust. First, trust in ourselves, and then trustworthiness that we are displaying towards others. And then we can get into trust in relationships. So now, after we've worked on ourselves, and after we've said to ourselves, okay, what can I do to build my character and the character trait of trust in me? Now I can request, I can ask for, I can even demand trustworthiness from someone else. It's really unfair to ask someone to trust you and to ask them to exhibit trust towards you. if you yourself haven't done the work. So I'm going to ask everybody to do the work to strengthen your character as it relates to trust. And then we can ask other people to do the same to us. So trust in relationships now. Again, it's in all relationships, right? Not just romantic relationships. It's in work relationships. Um, some of you know that I did higher education communication for many years. And one of the things that I was responsible for was emergency communications. So emergencies would sometimes be natural disasters. Or some emergencies were things like violence on campus. And so I had to respond very quickly, my team and myself. And you can imagine if I'm trying to reach a staff member, a team member, and they won't answer their phones. That's a work situation. But if I can't depend on somebody who's on my team in a crisis, in an emergency, to answer their phones, then that's a problem for me. And so one of the things that I always did on the job, is that I hired to character. I look for trustworthiness in the people who I would hire because that's important for me in getting my job done, right? What are some other examples of where you have to exhibit trustworthiness? That's in other relationships outside of the home. That was just one. Other relationships, parent and children, right? There's some parents who are non-custodial parents, and they have, let's say, visitation rights. And sometimes they say, okay, I'm going to come over. I'm going to pick you up. And then they don't show up. What happens there? It erodes the trust in the child who is then waiting, right? Because somebody didn't keep their word. And then, of course, we always talk about the romantic parts of the relationship. If we are married or if we have a significant other, and of course, we want them to trust us. And we want to be able to trust them as well. One of the things that I would say is that in a romantic relationship, a breach of trust usually just doesn't happen right away. Meaning that there are usually little things that we lose trust on slowly. It erodes very, very slowly until you can't trust anything. So what I would suggest is for all of the viewers, for all of us in our lives to look at the little ways where trust is being broken in our relationships, whatever relationships they may be. So if we're in a romantic relationship and somebody says they're going to do something and they don't do it as something very small, we need to hold them accountable. Because if we don't hold them accountable, what's going to happen? They're going to think it's okay. They're going to think it's okay to continue to break our trust. And then it's going to lead to one thing and another and another and another. So in trust in relationships, again, we have to make sure that we are trustworthy and that we are trusting and that we are exhibiting all of the behaviors that we want somebody else to exhibit back to us. And when we realize that the person isn't, then we need to bring it to their attention and we need to hold them accountable. This is how you made me feel. You broke my trust. And then work on steps to actually review it. What happened? How can I fix it? How can I stop it from happening again? How can I make sure that it never happens again so that that trust can be built back up so that you can feel in a place where you're comfortable because you know that you're doing your best with trust and the other person is also doing their best with trust. Does that make sense? I have a question here. How do you trust someone again who you had a work relationship that went wrong? After you already built that trust, how do you move forward? Well, it's hard. It's hard when somebody has broken your trust for you to be able to move forward. But you start with small things where that person can exhibit that they are trying to build the trust, that they value. First of all, it's value. Value is very important to building a trusting relationship. If you're in a relationship with anyone and they continue to break the trust over and over and over, then the question you have to ask yourself is, does this person value me? Does this person value our friendship? Does this person value our work relationship? Does this person value our romantic relationship? That's like at the crux of it, because if someone really values you, they're not going to want to break trust with you because trust is the foundation for a relationship. They know if they break trust with you, the relationship is going to be on shaky ground. So if they value you enough, they will try to maintain that trust. They will take baby steps by keeping their word, by being consistent. They will do these things to show you that they can be trusted again. So it's about communicating to that person how they broke your trust, how it made you feel, and things that they can do to regain your trust once again. So Akin says constant communication with each other, and that's absolutely true. Constantly communicating. So if someone breaks your trust today and you say nothing about it to them and you're upset with them and you fume about it and you change how you're reacting to them, you change how you're communicating with them, there's no way that they realize sometimes what they've done, or sometimes they don't realize how what they have done is affecting you. So it's your responsibility then to take it to that person and say, hey, this is what you did to me. This is how it's affecting me. It's broken my trust with you. And if you value me, are you willing to work on building the trust back up? And that person has a decision to make right then and there. Do you value me enough to work on building the trust back up? Or don't you don't value me at all, and so you don't care if the relationship should no longer go on. So if I would say that you have that communication going where that person, if they value you, they will let you know so that you can work on baby steps for actually building a relationship back up. So one of the other questions that I got today on my inbox was, is it okay, the person asks, is it okay if you are married to be attracted to someone else? Is it okay? You tell me. Tell me, what do you guys think? Is it okay if you're married to be attracted to someone else? And I think that it is. I think that it is. And I'm not sure how many people will agree with me, but I think it's just human nature to be attracted to other people. For whatever reason. And I think, though, that's the question that you have to ask yourself. If you find, and there's going to be a tie-in, trust me, there's going to be a tie-in back to trust. If you find that you are in a relationship or you're married and you're attracted to someone else, I think the question is why? Why are you attracted to someone else? Are you attracted to that person because of their character? Or are you attracted to that person because of how they look? Are you attracted to that person because of how they behave, how you see them behaving or interacting with somebody else? Why are you attracted to that person? And it's what you decide to do on it, right? So you can be attracted to somebody and it can stop right there. Or you can be attracted to somebody and it can get really, really messy. So it's really up to you and what you want to do. I will say this. I've been in relationships where I have told the other person that I'm attracted to somebody, and I've told them why. But you have to be in a really secure and safe place in your relationship to actually go there, to actually say that I am attracted to so-and-so, and this is why. And now if the person is really secure within themselves, they want to know why. They want to know, really? You looking out? You looking somewhere else? Why is that? And as you discuss that and communicate with that, then you can fill the gap that exists within whatever your current marriage or relationship situation is. So if you're attracted to somebody because you think that they treat their partner good, I'm attracted to this person. I always see him out with his wife, or I always see her out with her husband, whatever. It doesn't matter what the gender is, but you always see them out and you see them treating each other well, then you can talk to your spouse about that. I'm attracted to this person just by how they behave. You know, talk to your spouse about the things that you're attracted to in other people, because it may be things that you can cultivate within your own marriage and your relationship. It could be their personality. Absolutely, it could be their personality. And are you able now to go back to your spouse and change your spouse's personality? Probably not. Probably not. But what you can do is pinpoint personality traits in that person that you admire. And then you can discuss it with your spouse. So if that person is always jovial and is always laughing and, you know, is always light-spirited and funny, maybe your spouse can't be the same way. But maybe you can tell your spouse, you know, what I appreciate in such and such is that that person is always humorous. They're always looking at the light side of things. And so that's something that you can bring into your relationship. lighten up a little bit, be a little bit more humorous, do something else that would help to bring that energy that you're seeing outside into your relationship. What I will say, and Aking says, right, it comes back down to communication. Absolutely, absolutely comes right back down to communication. Communicate. Communicate with your spouse what it is that you feel is missing, what it is that you feel you're being attracted to elsewhere. And once the relationship is in a good place, your spouse hopefully should be open to hearing and should be open to listening to what it is you like in someone else. I mean, I like I said, I've done it before and I've gotten good reactions. I didn't think I would, but I had to overcome that fear and have the courage to say, hey, I admire so and so because of so and so. And it went across well, like, why? And then we discuss it and we'll work and see how we can bring some of those things, those into our relationship so that it can be fun for all of us. So that's one way. What I will say about this, which can really get messy, is that if you start to focus outside of your marriage or outside of your relationship, that's not going to help. It's going to make things in your relationship worse. Whatever you feed grows. Whatever you feed grows, period. So if you're feeding a negative behavior, that's going to grow. If you're feeding a positive behavior, that's going to grow. So I'm saying that to say, if you feed and you give in to this feeling that you're having, a feeling of attraction that you're having to someone else while you're in a relationship, that's going to grow. That's going to grow. But if you say that, you know what, I'm going to try to seek the same things within my marriage and within my relationship, you know what's going to happen? Your relationship, your marriage is also going to grow. So I would say whatever you feed grows. Feed your marriage. Feed your relationship. Don't look outside and compare. Don't look outside and say, this is how this person is. I like this person because of this, and then feed that and feed into that other person. Whatever it is, see how you can put it and add it into your own marriage and your own relationship to make it better. And this whole thing ties back in to trust. Trust. Now, are you going to have the integrity and the honesty with your spouse to actually discuss some of these things? And do they trust you enough to take what it is that you're going to tell them and not be jealous and envious or upset, but be happy that you're communicating it to them so that together you can work on the relationship? And I would suggest not to break the trust, not to do anything dishonest within that attraction to anybody else that would break the trust with your spouse. Because as we just discussed, once trust is broken, it's very, very, very hard to regain. So you don't want to take a childhood or a schoolgirl or schoolboy crush to another level where you break the trust with your partner and you have to go through the hard work of regaining it. Instead, use that energy of attraction that's outside of your marriage, figure out what it is that you like, and then import it in, and apply it to your marriage or to your relationship. I see a comment here. When I lose trust, communication is rough for me. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you lose trust, communication is going to be hard. Why? There are two killers of relationships, right? Two killers. Pride is one of them. Pride is a killer of relationships. Pride and ego. Ooh, I mean, if you want your relationship to end, be proud, be prideful. Have a lot of ego, be big-headed, and you'll see how hard it is. So when we say that communication is hard because trust is broken, why is it hard? I know it's hard. Is it hard because you feel rejected? Or is it hard because you feel that that person owes you something? That person should be the one coming to you. That person should be the one initiating and talking first. Why is it hard? Think about it. Examine it. Examine the reasons why communication is hard for you. Is it because of pride? Is it because of anger? Is it because of these negative emotions? And if it is, and likely it is, if it is, like what I would say is, don't let the negative emotions get the best of you. We know that communication is important. So if trust is broken and we need to communicate in order to regain that trust, what is stopping us? What is stopping us? Is it pride? Is it ego? Is it we're saying we're not going first? And what is it that's stopping us? And that's what we have to get at the bottom of. What is stopping us then from initiating communication so that we can repair whatever it is? Of course, once the other person is willing to repair. And in order for them to want to repair, they have to see value in it. And I always go back to value. So you go back to them and you ask them, is this what we have? Is it valuable enough to you that you want to work on it? If it is valuable enough to you, can we communicate about it? Can we talk about it? And then where do we go from here? How do we build trust? How do we build trust from here? And I see a comment that says anger. Anger is a very bad emotion too. It has its place. All of our emotions have their places, right? All of our emotions. But we can't let our emotions get the most of us. So are we going to stay so angry with our spouse, or are we going to stay so angry with our coworker? Are we going to stay so angry with our mother, our father, our sister, our brother? Are we going to stay so angry with them that we choose not to communicate with them to build a relationship? Remember people, relationships are the most important things in life. It's been said over and over and over and over and over and over again that when people are on their deathbeds, they don't care about cars and house and land and jobs and careers. They care about the relationships that they have with other people. That is the most important thing. When you are sick, you are not wondering about a car. When you are sick, you are not wondering if you owe the bank. When you are sick, you're not worried about those stuff. When you are sick, when you are down, and when you reach the end of your life, what's going to matter is the relationships that you have, the relationships with your children and the relationships with your family members and the relationships that you've had. So do you value enough to put your anger aside in order to communicate? And so I saw a comment that says sometimes people want to, silence is not the key. I feel silence is not the key at all. Silence ruins relationships. And I struggle with that right now. I really do, because one of the things that I do is that I used to, I think, probably talk a little bit too much and always express whatever feelings that I may have. And so what I found in relationships, all relationships, is that sometimes I'm silent. But silence is a form of communication, and it usually communicates indifference. It usually says to the person who's on the other end of the silent treatment that you don't care. Now, is that what you want to communicate, that you don't care? If you value something, you are going to step up and you're going to have the communication that is necessary in order to save the relationship or save the friendship or save whatever it is because you value it. And I'm reading here from Akin. He says, you and that person you're with is in that relationship. And that is absolutely true. Silence is never good. And silence, it has its place. Meaning, if a situation is explosive, or if a situation gets to the point where you are devaluing each other, or a situation gets to a place where you're not in a good space, then I would definitely say that you should be silent for a moment. You should be silent for a period of time. But if you are telling me that you are using silence to communicate in a relationship, then I'm going to tell you that relationship is going to be hard. It's going to be harder to get where you need to go or to the levels that you want to go in a relationship. If you're tired of arguing, then there's always the option of seeking outside help. Seek outside help where both of you, there's a neutral person, and both of you can come together with a neutral person who is unbiased, who has the expertise in terms of relationship coaching to actually coach you through it. And there are times that you're going to be angry. There are times that you're going to be upset. There are times where it's going to be a lot of arguing. And it takes two wise people, two people who really value each other enough to say to each other, okay, we need help. We need help. And it goes back to value. Is this relationship valuable enough that we want to save it? That we will go to somebody who's on the outside, who's unbiased, not your mommy and not your daddy and not your best friend, because those people have ulterior motives. If it's my best friend is going to only look at what's best for me and not be so forgiving for the other person. If it's the other person's brother, that person is going to be biased as well. So do you value the relationship enough that you want to seek the help that's necessary to keep it going? All right. And thank you. Sean says that silence communicates indifference. Oh, you were repeating back what I said. Yes, it does. And so in every relationship, we're speaking about trust tonight, but in every relationship, communication is also a foundation. We spoke about trust being a foundation, but communication is also a foundation. So we spoke about different things about trust. This is what I'm going to do is just recap. You know, guys know I don't like to stay too long on the live, but I'd say this. First and foremost, you have to build trust in yourself. Make the right decisions for yourself. Trust yourself. The things that you know that you need to do. People are watching how you treat you. People will never treat you better than you treat yourself. Watch your character. How trustworthy are you? Are you honest? Are you consistent? Are you disciplined? Do you keep your word? Do you practice what you preach? Build your character. Again, you cannot ask for something that you are unwilling to give. And then the other thing now in relationships is to always always communicate. Communicate with your spouse, your children, whoever you're in a relationship with, so that you can build that trust. If there is a breach in trust some way, speak up. Speak up, not too late. Don't let too much time pass. Speak up and say, this is how you broke the trust with me. Do you value me enough to work on building back up this trust? And work with that person on building up the trust so that you can build up the relationship if you two value it enough. And so just one thing, last thing that came into my communication, and this is, as I was preparing to go live, this came into my awareness tonight. Not everyone who is trustworthy can be trusted. And the reason I was saying this is because I was just thinking tonight, as you guys know, I have children. I was just thinking tonight about predators, child predators in particular. And sometimes child predators, what they do is that they build up trust, especially with children. They build up trust with children by being honest at first, by keeping their word, by showing up. All the things that we discussed, child predators do to build trust with children. And then after they've gained trust with children, they take advantage of children. And they sometimes do it to adults as well. So while we're talking about trustworthiness and while it's important, I just want everybody to remember, not everybody who appears trustworthy can be trusted. So it goes back to, what are their intentions? What is the intention of this person? What is the intention of that person? And how can I then use my intuition? Very good, Lauren. How can I use my intuition to really make a decision on who is trustworthy enough to be let into my circle, who is trustworthy enough to have a continued relationship with me, and who is trustworthy enough to be in my life? I think it goes back a lot to value. I would always say, if you're in a situation where you're being devalued, where you're being undervalued, where you're not being valued at all, because of trust, because trust has been broken over and over and over and over again, then you have a decision to make. Once you know that you're bringing the trust to the relationship, the friendship, the whatever the situation is, and you know you're bringing the trust, and you know that for some reason, this person isn't bringing the trust at all, this person is continuing to break trust over and over and over again, then you have to ask yourself, does this person value me enough? But most importantly, do I value myself enough to continue a relationship with someone who I can't trust? So that's it for tonight. Thank you, guys. I love you. I hope that I was able to add some value to you. I hope that you can use what we shared tonight to bring value to your relationships. I love you. God bless. Have a good night. And thanks again for joining me. Inbox me if you have anything that you want me to discuss in the future. And, you can continue to comment, and I'll go back to the comments and review the comments. Have a good night, y'all. Love you.